So, not some super highly edited, funny video today, guys. I just want to talk about the reality of the fantasy adaptation flood. Because if you've paid attention at all to fantasy or followed my channel, you've noticed I've talked about the fact that there are fantasy and sci-fi IPs being bought up left and right by studios across the board to be turned into something. This is not a wholly original phenomenon. It has happened before, as I've previously talked with multiple other people about. Every time there's a big success in Hollywood in one way or another, there will be a wave of copycats. It just happens. Whether or not it's been as extreme as the fantasy wave we are seeing, that I do not know. But breathe easy, because yes, they will kill each other, but gems will hopefully still survive. These studios all want the next Game of Thrones, the next Marvel, the next whatever. That's why they're just throwing whatever in the wall and seeing what sticks. There's certain adaptations that seem to have more heart being put into them. Obviously, I'm very biased towards Wheel of Time here, but it does have real fans at the core, so far from like every level I've seen, crafting the show with utmost care. And it's at Amazon, a big studio, who could actually make the production live up to what the show needs. So there's some like that, and I'd also include Witcher in there, and a few others that certainly have a bright future ahead of them if they are handled correctly. There's a couple others as well that I don't know enough, but I have a warm fuzzy feeling about, like the fact that it seems like Gentlemen Bastards is being turned into a live action adaptation. Cool. Great story, one of the best in recent fantasy, and small enough that you might not need a huge over-the-top budget. Maybe something like more of an art house approach could work there. Also, plenty of these will be turned into animes, and I think those do compete with the live actions less, as well as the fact it's probably safe to say that between half and 2/3 of all these IPs that are being bought up will not actually even receive a pilot or move past one if they do. A lot of these are just being bought up. Studios will see if they can get any form of momentum, any kind of interest, and if there is none, they will be dropped. Some have reached well beyond that point, and there's clearly investment happening, whether it's the King Killer adaptation or Witcher, which has even had set photos leak and looks really great. But a majority of the ones that are in the works will not be adapted. Using an example we've already mentioned, let's look at Wheel of Time. Red Eagle Entertainment bought the right to make an adaptation and sat on it for years and did nothing, and they crapped out a half-effort pilot just to try and retain rights that had massive fan backlash. I think we're much more likely to see a lot of that over the next 5 to 10 years than see even half of these actually ever reach a mainstream audience. This is not me being pessimistic, this is me addressing a reality of how the industry seems to work, at least from the history up until now. I would say the ones that are most likely to actually get to that point are the ones whose IPs have been bought up by major streaming services. Streaming services have become factories for content because they know content is how their streaming service will survive. It is king in an industry where you constantly need to pull more eyes than every other streaming service out there. So if your favorite fantasy book or series is currently in the hands of an Amazon Prime, a Netflix, a Hulu, what have you, I would say the odds of those being the crop that actually do get maybe even a first full season is way more likely. Now, that being said, let's go high numbers here. 70% don't make it past the pilot. From the amount that I've counted, that is still roughly 15 to 20 shows out there competing. And that is certainly enough for good shows to not be able to reach a wide enough audience due to eyes being pulled in too many directions, something that is not good for the genre. Not as bad as some commenters have been saying, like, oh my god, we're gonna have 70 fantasy shows, 80 fantasy shows. No, we're not. But we're still gonna have a lot, and arguably too many. The ones that pull the most eyes and get out the gate first are most likely to succeed. With the current scheduling I'm seeing, that equals series like Witcher, Wheel of Time, King Killer, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and a few others that are well down the production process or already out. The ones who follow up, their job is to pull eyes that are already in a series. That's tricky. So I'm sorry to say, if you just heard that your fantasy series that's really close to your heart is getting adapted and they're just starting, they're going to have a rocky road ahead of them. This video is just me spewing all the information and conclusions I've come to after taking a lot of time to look at what the current playfield looks like for fantasy and sci-fi adaptations and what the history of this industry shows. Adding a caveat to all of this, we're in a new era of television, without a doubt. And all my predictions could be proven wrong because of all these streaming services and new ways to watch TV. It could be really different than what I'm predicting because this is unequivocally a new era of media. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this flood. There's no other word for it. It is a flood tsunami of IPs being bought up and transformed down below. What are your thoughts? Comment and let me know. Which ones are you looking forward to the most? And do you think they are likely to succeed? Or will this be what happened with like the Western genre a few decades ago, where every TV station wanted to have their own Western and they all just killed each other off? Should be an interesting discussion. Anyway, guys, like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here, and have a good one. Peace.